Well, the coalition is getting nervous but not panicked after a rough first week of the campaign. Joining us now to discuss is Bill Shorten's former Chief of Staff, Cameron Milner from GXO Strategies, and Scott Morrison's former media advisor, Andrew Carswell, now at Headline Advisory. Welcome to you both, as always, on a Monday. Andrew, it's not quite panic stations behind the scenes, but look, it's not happy sailing. There is definitely concern.
Yeah, I think that's the right word, Shari. There's definitely no panic, but just major concern across the board. And there's a few people walking around a bit dumbfounded about where the coalition is at and the plight that they've got themselves into. It's been a rough couple of weeks, not just 1 week of the campaign. It's been a rough month for the coalition. And most of that is due to things that they have done to themselves, self-harm, so to speak. But there is a long way to go in this campaign. There's a long way to go for them to put themselves back into a position where they can hold Labor to account and make this election close. They were only there 4 weeks ago, but they have to get back into that kind of disciplined campaigning that we saw prior to the budget. And look, Peter Dutton hasn't had the most amazing start to this campaign, but neither do any first-termers that are approaching their first election. It's always a difficult transition to make to that first week of the campaign. There is so much at stake that mistakes are amplified. So there's a lot of stress that comes on. That's no excuse. They've got to get their team together and on the right path. And this week is critical. This will make or break the coalition this week.
And better, he's had a tough first week of the campaign than last week, and hopefully this is a pretty strong wake-up call, which I'm sure it has been. I mean, but you look at the past 2 years, and really, ever since the Voice campaign, Dutton has had Albanese trailing. He's had the momentum, and now suddenly when it's the election campaign, he's faltered a bit. But Cameron, I want to ask you about how Dutton handled this backflip on the public service working from home. I mean, he said, yep, I've listened, we got it wrong. Albanese's never once admitted he got something wrong. You've never heard that from the Prime Minister.
No, I mean, Albo's never at fault, is he? Never at fault. But I do think this is a huge problem for Peter Dutton. This is a policy that he was, putting out there only a few days ago, and then he's completely backflipped 180 degrees on this policy. It just looks weak. It looks like Albo. That's the problem for him. And yet it's another day where he's not talking about cost of living, Shari. The only way Dutton's got any chance, and I agree with Andrew, he's still got time, the only chance he's got is to get back into cost of living and get back to some solutions that voters want to vote for. And right now, backflips aren't going to get him there.
Well, in Victoria, this is going to be a key state, and we've seen the Liberals launch an advert which ties Albanese to unpopular Victorian Premier Jacinta Allan. You might have seen it by now. If not, here it is.
Albo and Allan are double trouble for Victoria. Labor's budget shows 10 years of deficits. And Victoria has the worst debt of any state. Victorians are paying more for mortgages and the biggest rent rises in over a decade. Crime is at an all-time high, and both Labor governments cut funding for Victorian roads. Don't double down on failure. We can't afford 3 more years of Labor.
Now, I only play that, Andrew, to show that this is part of the reason Albanese has been avoiding appearing with Premier Allan, but he was forced to front up and see her today after that ad started on the weekend.
Yeah, well, Victoria is still the hotspot for the coalition at the moment, and largely because it's the exact opposite for the Labor Party. The Labor Party brand, both from a state and federal level, is on the nose down there. So the coalition is still making gains in Victoria. They're still hopeful of at least 3 seats, and I think both sides kind of concede there's 3 that will likely change hands, and that's Aston, McEwen and Chisholm. But to get to that next tier, they need to go up a level in this campaign, the coalition. The seats like Bruce, Hawke, Corangamite, they're the next targets, but they're kind of out of reach. They were within reach about four weeks ago, but there's still a bit of work to do there. But I would say this, in terms of the news poll, we've seen that come down from a primary vote for the Liberals from 39, eventually getting all the way down to where it is now at 36. That primary vote leakage has not gone to the Labor Party. It is spraying out to the left in terms of the Teals and independents, and it is spraying to the right and going to One Nation and other far-right parties. So Labor are not picking up the losses that we're seeing from the Liberal Party, and I think that keeps them in kind of a minority situation. There's a lot of talk about, there's a potential going to Labor majority. They're not anywhere near that because of that factor.
No, that's really interesting. And I think part of that result then, Cameron, isn't just that it's been a rocky start for Dutton, it's also that we've seen the other parties out, the One Nation, Clive Palmer's party and others out there campaigning with ads.
Well, that's right. And none of this news poll says Labor's got a primary bounce. So Andrew's right. I mean, though the coalition are off a few points, it hasn't gone across to Labor. But in the end, to win seats in Victoria, the Liberal primary needs to get better. And I think that Victoria is a huge problem for Labor. That's why I think Jacinda Allen will be the last time she's seen a press conference next to the Prime Minister for the rest of the campaign. Albo doesn't want to be near Victoria. He doesn't want to go there. You got Mr. Snarky and Mr. Snappy last week at his press conference. He doesn't like Victorians. Victorians don't like him. He doesn't want to be there. And he's going to lose seats in Victoria. He's going to lose seats in New South Wales. So even this news poll says the best he can hope for is minority government begging Bant for support and begging whatever's left of the Teals to support him as well. That's the best option that this news poll still says that Albanese is up for.
Speaking of the Teals, last night Allegra Spender was overshadowed by Liberal candidate Ro Knox. This is the Wentworth Forum. Have a look at this closing remark from Ro Knox.
And what I know and you know is that the cost of living crisis has hurt us all. And that's a direct result of this Labor government, who Allegra Spender has voted with on legislation 71% of the time. Allegra Spender has said tonight she will not tell us who she will form government with in the event of a hung parliament. She only has an option to form a minority government with Labor and the Greens.
Andrew, this was quite a stunning improvement from Ro Knox, I thought.
Yeah, look, and I think people would be quite surprised to know that seat is tighter than probably people realise. She's doing a great job there. Look, it's always tight, that seat, since Malcolm left. So she is doing a great job. And look, this is the risk that you have in these seats. You vote for someone like Allegra Spender, you run the risk of getting Anthony Albanese. That is the gamble that you are taking by voting Teal. And, by not showing that she will vote with the majority of her constituency, which is Conservative, says a lot about their intentions.
Yeah, it's fascinating. That'll definitely be one to watch and a tough battle. The margin's around 9%, but you never know.